Hello. So I want to talk about the Great Reset and the connections it has to the Great Leap Forward. So the Great Leap Forward, what is it? The Great Leap Forward, that is a plan created by Mao Zedong. He was the communist leader from China since 1945. The way how he got to power was because I don't know, if, in World War II, China was at war with Japan, and Japan was basically fighting against uh, China, and the war came to its end in 1945. That was also when Mao Zedong was hiding from China as well as Japan. Well, not really hiding, but he was fighting there, but not really engaging. He was just hiding on mountains, training, and maybe sometimes some skirmishes with China's government. Because Mao Zedong, he was a bit of he was a criminal basically. He was the revolutionary. He was the yeah, he was the opposition towards the government. So in the end of World War II, uh, then Mao Zedong basically took control over China by defeating the Chinese government with his own personal army. That's how he came to power. And the connections I basically see with the Great Reset, what's happening right now, is, well, to begin with, the name, the Great Reset, the Great Leap Forward. It is the same type of name. Now, what Mao Zedong did, which I think is happening right now again, he tried to, maybe I can, well, I can show you this one here without the sound. So here, you see the cult, what they had, the atrocities they did. That's the civil war I was talking about, and then he took it over. But let me see. So at some point he's starting to lose his grip, because a lot of people were dying from starvation. They say around 50 million. Everyone has different estimations, but it's an extremely a lot, maybe 50 million, 20 million. And then he did a swim as an PR stunt, but that's not the really important stuff. The important stuff here, the Cultural Revolution. What that means is that what he did, he was destroyed the culture of China. Oh, by the way, also important, the Red Guards. That is, well, you can say the Red Guards. So when Mao Zedong, when he was fighting in the great, or not the great, but when he was fighting in the revolution, when against China's government. So when he was a rebel, he had his own army, and that army basically is called the Red Guards, which is, I think, a bit of a synonym, like an indication of the Red Book. Everything is red. So yeah, and that's basically his personal army. And all of these people in this picture, they are brainwashed by the school systems and by the books, you know, and they will believe everything what Mao Zedong would say. And that's really important to remember, that basically Mao Zedong had his own personal army who would follow his commands no matter what type of thing he would ask. It doesn't matter what he would say. Kill your parents, they will probably do it. Ah, the four olds: old culture, old ideology, old customs, old traditions. And that's what's happening right now in this time period. The Great Reset, this is what's happening. They are, and when I say they, I mean the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. They are right now actively destroying our old culture, our old ideology, customs, and traditions. You can probably see it in your country. You know, if you think about what they have done in the last 20 years with your culture and with your traditions, they are probably being scrutinized and destroyed. Same as your history. because history is also a big part of your culture. They're probably also destroying your statues, your, you name it. And the thing is that the reason why they are destroying this, like if you look at Mao Zedong's time, the old culture and all these things, is because they try to implement their own culture. So basically, with Mao Zedong, he was afraid of being forgotten by history and being, because that's an interesting thing they said here. So when Stalin died, they had de-Stalinization. So basically, they tried to de-Stalinize because Stalin. He was pretty bad. He killed a lot of people in an evil way. So he had and he also used a lot of brainwash. A lot of people followed him, and So then, what's his name? I don't know his name. I'm not that good with names, but at least the leader after Stalin, he basically said that what Stalin did was evil, and tried to undo the brainwash of Stalin. And Mao Zedong, he saw that, so he was like, I don't like that, and I don't want that to happen. So that's why he where's that picture? That's why he's starting to destroy all these things, because he wanted to do a new type of ideology, a new type of customs, traditions, and culture. And that culture was basically admiration for Mao Zedong. Thinking of Mao Zedong as a god, and all of those things, creating his own culture. So, and nowadays with the Great Reset, they do not, per definition, wanna have us, idolize someone. They just wanna destroy almost everything. They wanna destroy our economic. They wanna destroy our food. Now you might ask, why do they want to destroy our food? What is the point of destroying food? Well, it's quite easy. If you don't have food, and the only way how you can get food is by listening to your dictator, to do exactly what he wants you to do, you bet your ass you will do it. Even if you think you will not, if you are hungry enough, you will do almost everything. Food is the If you control the food and you don't have food, you can make that person do whatever you want. There's almost no limits to it. Maybe a really mentally strong person can resist. They are far and few between. So that's why they are right now busy with destroying food. And if you think, that's not true, I can of course find you some evidence. The amount of factories which are being destroyed, or with fires and accident in America right now. Food factory destroyed. Well, that's what they're saying, but still, the amount of food factories which are being destroyed is a lot. I mean, like 15, 16 or something. Yeah, here again, by farms are destroying millions of pounds of food. The lockdowns also, were a big hit on our food industry, and a lot of businesses, like I said, they're trying to destroy the economic to be able to create a new, economic. And of course, Bill Gates, he always buys farmland. He's always ahead of what's happening, but that's because he creates it. So he knows exactly what he needs to do to be able to profit from it. But yeah, I mean, if you don't believe me, be my guest, try to see how many factories have been destroyed, because I'm not gonna spend like 10 or 5 minutes looking all that stuff up, because if you're interested and you want to know, you can just look it up yourself. So they are destroying food factories right now. And again, the war in Russia with Ukraine, that also is creating a food shortage in grain. So yeah. But then of course, so we see right now that I think they are destroying our old culture and our old traditions. But the next thing is, of course, they're going to implement a new culture, because you need a culture. Even if you don't want to create a new culture, culture will always arise, always occur, because there is nothing you can do about it. That's just the way how it goes. It's something you need. It's a set of rules you live in. So, and you think maybe a culture of a land is big, but to simulate what a culture basically is in an easy way, in your house, in your family, you have your own culture there. So you have a certain type of values which are in your house. And if you go to someone else's house, they have their own culture there again, which of course is influenced by the bigger culture from the country. But that's what a culture is, and there's not, that will always exist. So what I personally believe what they will do right now, after they destroy the old culture, they are going to implement a new culture, and I think the new culture is going to be about climate change. Why climate change? I think climate change because, to begin with, climate change is something which has a lot of influence in your life. If you think about everything what you do, which they say that CO2 creates climate change. I personally don't know if that's true. There are a lot of things which create climate change. In our Earth's history, we already had 4 ice ages before humans even existed. Yeah, so there are a lot of different types of influences which can create, climate change. Not saying that climate change doesn't exist, because yes, it exists. I just don't know if it's really as bad, a lot of influence because of the humans. And maybe it has, but even if we have a lot of influence on it, we will not be able to stop it. Even if we take away all the CO2, there are still certain type of things going on, which we don't really understand yet, which will still, climate change is forever. It's like trying to say, we're not gonna let up the moon. We're gonna change the daytime to nighttime. It's just the way how the world works. So I think, but why I think they're gonna use climate change is because of CO2, and CO2 you use in everything. If you breathe out, you use CO2. If you eat meat, you create CO2. If you go in a car, you create CO2. If you make anything at a factory, you create CO2. Everything you do has CO2. So that's why if they want to take full control, which they are trying to do, like the World Economic Forum, they want to put you in a box and just that's it. And you need to do whatever they say you to do. And now you say, I will not do that. Of course, that's what you say. That's what the free person should say. But when they are done with their destruction of the culture, and they will create new traditions and a new set of values, even if you yourself will not follow it, a lot of other people will. Because again, they do not know that they are being manipulated and played. As you can see with Mao Zedong and China, it has been very effective. That's why, they still think of Mao Zedong as a good person, even though he killed 50 million people with starvation. Think about that. He killed 50 million people with starvation in the most brutal way possible. But they still think he was not a bad guy. They think he just had some bad luck with the venom. That's how effective this method of, destroying the whole culture to implement its own culture. So it's, to be honest, I wouldn't say it's scary. I find it to be very interesting. It is a bit scary. Um, I don't know. I'm just like, it's like you're living in a history lesson. Because a bit about myself, I think I when I was like 12 years old, I was really fascinated with Adolf Hitler and Germany, and what they did in those concentration camps with the Jews, and I just couldn't understand, why could you be that evil? How could you do such a thing? I really couldn't understand. So I spent from my 12 to how old, like 24, I just spent studying history and trying to understand how the psychology works of people. So, and one of the things which I think would explain a lot about, how a Nazi soldier is able to, for example, kick in the head of a baby Jew. Because try to imagine that you are, like, let's say you are that Nazi soldier. You see that baby, and you're able to kick in the head of a Jew, of a baby Jew, just a little baby. You can kick in his head to kill it. Can you imagine how evil you need to be. How can you do such a thing, right? Like it's so hard to understand. But I start to think more about it, and I think the reason why someone is able to do that, it is our instinct. Now it sounds weird, right? Our instinct. What does our instinct has to do with that? Well, to give you, it's like a thought experiment. So let's say someone you really love. You can decide who, maybe your mother, your father, your cat, your dog, something you really love. And then someone, yeah, a criminal or something, goes there and does the most horrendous type of stuff to that animal person. Yeah, like, torture. I mean, yeah, I don't want to say it all because it's pretty intense, but the most horrendous stuff. Then afterwards, that person who did it, he will, let's say he's captured, and then you have control over him. What are the type of things you could be able to do against that person? What would you be able to do against him? I mean, if I look at myself, I would, quite frankly, I would kill him. Like, there's no doubt about it. And that's and that's that's instinct. And the reason why I think it's instinct is because if you don't kill him, then he will do it again. And you need your family and your group of people to be alive. So if there is someone outside of your group terrorizing and killing everyone, then your instinct basically just is like, kill it, and do the most evil stuff to it. It's our instinct for survival which allows us to do that. That's why it doesn't feel that bad, how weird it might sound. And that instinct is the same instinct they're using against us to make us do horrible stuff. And now, of course, because the Jews, to give an example, if you're talking about Adolf Hitler and all that stuff, the Jews, they really never did, they never really, tortured the family of Adolf Hitler, and they never tortured, that is not what they did. But the thing about it is that whether or not they did it is not that important, because brainwashing and fear, that you go into a psychosis. And what does that mean, a psychosis? So are you able to imagine a lion killing you? Like a big lion. Can you see that in front of you? Can you be afraid of a lion even though it isn't there? But can you imagine it? You probably can, because I can do it. I think most people can create fears in their head, which is not by definition there. It's a fantasy. And that is when you are in a psychosis, that basically means that reality and fantasy are not any longer, like, they are connected with each other. They are not any longer separate. Fantasy and reality will become one. And that is what happens. That's what happened in World War II. Basically, Adolf Hitler, he created so much fear in people's minds that at some point the fear becomes so big that they basically just decided that whatever reality is, I don't care, I'm so afraid, we need to do something. Their fantasy became reality. And when that happens, whatever the fantasy is, that is then the reality. In this case, in Adolf Hitler's case, it was that the Jews were evil and needs to be killed and exterminated. So yeah, that's because I was just trying to explain a little bit who I am. I'm just really interested in history and psychology, and I must be real. Like, what the things I'm seeing right now and the things what is going on, it's yeah, I think it's 100% they're gonna redo what Mao Zedong did, because Mao Zedong was really effective in what he did, and especially considering the amount of people, because China is pretty big, and the fact that still to this day they don't think he's a bad guy. So yeah, and again, I would like you to debate me in the comments, and maybe you can see for yourself if you have any evidence, in your own country where they have destroyed your, your ideology, old customs, and stuff like that. And again, it's not, that's also interesting. They will destroy everything they want to change. So also, for example, if you look in the United States, where they are more and more about transgenders, about like homosexuality, they are, give me a sec, they are destroying the family structures and also the meaning of a man or a woman. And now you might think that that's not true, which I understand because it sounds absolutely stupid to say that they are trying to destroy the the definition of a man or a female. But there's a lot of evidence. By the way, I advise you to watch Mimeology. It's pretty well. For example, this.
Excuse me, what the?
So what they did there, they basically expose young children to sexuality and where it isn't supposed to be at right now. This, I'm trying to find one other video.
Near pre-pandemic.
Ah, there it is. Right. So what I was saying, they're trying to destroy everything they want to change. Same as they want to destroy the definition of a woman because, well, it might sound really strange and weird what I'm gonna say, but the World Economic Forum, they basically want to make like a type of cyborg. Now, what I mean with cyborg, basically half robot, half human. It's like, yeah, it sounds crazy and retarded, but again, I'm not the one thinking about it or thinking of it. I'm just relaying the message because they themselves are talking about it. Like the World Economic Forum, if you don't believe me, type in World Economic Forum speeches. I mean, might on YouTube them might be banned a lot of it, but yeah, they're talking about making human cyborgs. Putting chips in you, hacking you, crazy stuff.
What do you say a woman is?
I believe that everyone can identify for themselves.
Okay. Do you believe then that men can become pregnant and have abortions?
Yes.
Hey pal, you just blowing from stupid town?
So abortion should be allowed then, by your definition, for any reason, for any purpose, at any stage, right?
I trust people to make decisions about their body, and then when relevant, I think that they need to consult their medical practitioners.
Okay.
And not
If
Congress.
it is, listen, let me just ask you this question. If it is not lawful and morally acceptable to take the life of a 10-year-old child, I assume you agree with that, right? That would be wrong, correct?
I believe that.
Okay.
That is
And a
wrong.
2-year-old child, same thing. That would be murder. We would all agree that's wrong. Then what is the principal distinction between the human being that is 2 years old, or 9 months old, or 1 week old, or an hour old, than one that is 8 inches further up the birth canal in the utero? What's the difference? Why is it okay in the latter case and not the former cases?
I trust people to determine what to do with their own bodies.
Wow.
Full stop.
Why is it okay in the latter case and not the former case?
Yeah, about abortion, I think that's personally, I think that's a difficult topic because I don't think anyone is like happy to have abortions, right? I mean, that's like pretty sick if you are. And if you're gonna say it's not allowed to have abortions, then well, a long time ago they had it, but then you had some other methods they would use. They would just kick you in the stomach, or take some fucking tea to kill you illegally, or go to a secret doctor, and like a lot of women die trying to kill their own babies, which I don't think is a good idea either. But then again, I do believe there should be some, I wouldn't say control, maybe more that you know, oh, I didn't take my pill. You know, I just could get an abortion. I mean, of course, it's not that simple, but there are some messed up people, and I think there should be some extra rules for that, so that if someone just thinks too lightly of abortion, they should have some extra rules in place to counter people who think, I don't know, make them pay €1,000 extra. They will not, they will probably have a child then maybe, but they will think twice about having the, not, just having sex without thinking about it. And of course, give them a good warning beforehand so they know what is gonna happen if they don't do it. But that's my opinion. So what you saw there again is just them trying to push that a woman is a social construct, doesn't have to do anything with biology, and it's ludicrous, it's insane. But again, that's the new type of culture they're trying to create. And if you're talking about, for example, climate change, what they are doing right now is they're basically creating apps which will follow all the CO2 you are creating in the world, and then they will basically just use that information to control you. So I don't know, let's say you're living, they will just put the app down, and every time you go to, for example, the grocery store, and you want to pay, and you put your pass in front of the paper, you're trying to pay at the cassa, at the cashier. I'm sorry, it's my Dutch language. Then they will be like, okay, that is €20, and that is 20 liters of CO2 because you order a lot of meat. 20 liters is, by the way, a lot, but just to give you an example, or 10 kilos, or whatever measurements they're going to use to determine how much CO2 you use. And then you basically get a balance, so much CO2 you're allowed to use. And of course, in the beginning, they're going to start really big, because if you right away start to limit people too much, then people are not going to like it and they will revolt. So they're going to start out really big, and most people will go along with it because, let's be real, a lot of people, they will, everything talking about climate change is like, we have been brainwashed, in my eyes, to believe climate change is something we can change, when I don't think we can. And that we have been brainwashed from a very young age. And, that's what they will use. So a lot of people will, when they see those pass, and they'll be like, yeah, that's good, we're going to stop climate this way, yay! And then slowly and surely they will keep taking away more and more and more until you are not even allowed to eat meat, or drive a car, or do anything basically. But then at the same time, people like Bill Gates, people who are part of the World Economic Forum, they will just go all out. They will have 20 airplanes, they will do what the fuck they want because they have all the control. They have the food market under control. They have the money under control, because they are gonna create Bitcoin, for example. The reason why Bitcoin is not being able to be stopped by governments is because it is on a computer. A computer creates like a network, and that network is where all the Bitcoins go on. So it's really hard to destroy it because there are so many computers. So that's why they say it's really hard for the governments to crack down on Bitcoin, which is true. But that's why, in the last meeting of the World Economic Forum, they were talking about creating a Bitcoin for the country. So I don't know, if you live, let's say you live in Italy, they will create their own Bitcoin, which will be on the Italian government computers. And that is the only accepted form of pay for people to use. So if you don't have Bitcoin, so let's say you just have physical money, euros, you're not allowed to pay anything. And now you say, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that normal physical money cannot be traced. Not that easily, it still can, where you take it out of the bank, but it's not going to be as easily traced as a Bitcoin. If it's from Italy, let's say in Italy Bitcoin, which is on their personal computer screen, because every interaction with the Bitcoin is going to be on the computer. if you buy it somewhere, if you sell it somewhere, if you whatever you do with the money, it's always going to be on the computer. They know exactly what you buy, where you buy, how much you buy. They might even be able to just say, okay, this person has this ID, right? He is not allowed to buy with the Bitcoin this food. So yeah, we're in for a shocker, because the food industry, like the economic themselves, they are really fucked up. I mean, it's hard to deny nowadays because of the inflation and everything. But what you see right now is nothing yet of what is to come. They are not yet, like, basically what they're doing is they keep up the economic. They keep acting like everything is normal. And the reason why they're doing that is because if they would let it collapse right now to the extent, like the worst case scenario, complete collapse, like no jobs, just complete utter destruction, then people will blame the government. Most people. And the government is never to blame. That's the thing about the government. How can I say this? A capable government, and then I mean with a capable government as in an evil government who is really good at what they're doing, they will never be to blame of what happened to them, of what happened to the people of their country. They will always find someone to blame. It's never their fault, it's always someone else, always. So they need to find a good, a good source, a good group to blame for the coming economic collapse. And I think they're gonna blame Russia. And the reason why I think that is because I think what they are going to do is they're gonna create a blackout. So a power shortage in a large portion of the world. Again, I do not know exactly how big, because it's not like they give me letters for that, or that they really talk openly about that in the World Economic Forum. But they are gonna create a power outage which is created by hackers, and they will just say it's Russian hackers. And then I do not know if it is, it's probably going to be created by our governments themselves, but we just blame Russia. Or what could also happen is that Russia is going to lose the war in Ukraine, which will make them feel like the last thing they can do before nuclear weapons is a power outage. So that's what I think. I think a power outage with Russia, and then, they blame Russia, and then, the whole economic collapse, the food industry collapse. And then a lot of people will die, but that's that's what that's the Great Leap Forward, the Great Reset is based on the same thing. You will own nothing and be happy. That's what they say with the Great Reset, the complete and utter destruction of everything. Now maybe you feel like what I just said might you feel hopeless maybe now, but I just want to say one thing. It's not over. We are still in the fight. There are more and more people waking up to what's really happening, or more and more people realizing what's happening. They are even a little bit behind on their schedule, because they already want to do way more stuff than what happened, because more and more people start to rise up against this. Like, for example, this video of this person. There are more and more people like him who are standing up against this tyranny. Elon Musk, and of course, if you look, for example, at free speech on mainstream media, the fact that they still, if I look at Facebook and some other sources, the fact that they still are not able to completely squeeze down on the so-called misinformation and the conspiracy theories, that is the reason why they're not yet that far. Because to brainwash someone, you need to make sure that they don't get any other information than the one which is their information. And what I mean with that is like this. Brainwashing, basically, when I say to you the color yellow, let's say I say to you, this is yellow. Everyone in the world will think of the same thing, yellow. That's the color, right? And that's what brainwashing does. It will not make you think about what I just asked you. So, for example, if I ask to a Nazi, a Jew is bad, they would be like, yes. Same as if I ask to you, this is yellow. Yes, you don't think about it. That's brainwashing. So that's why if you want to brainwash someone, then you need to have one-sided information. Because if let's say one source this says this is yellow and another source says this is blue, then in the beginning you will probably just like, that's crazy talk and blah blah. But if more and more people start to say, oh, that's not yellow, that's blue, then at some point you will start questioning yourself if it's really yellow or blue, right? You start to think like, is it really? I mean, there's so many people who are doubting, like, that's crazy. Maybe there is something to it. And then maybe you have some professor, because of this reason, that's why it's blue. And you start to doubt more. And then that's how brainwashing works. Or that's how brainwashing doesn't work. If there is too much different information going on, so you start to think about the subject. Brainwashing works when there is one-sided information which just says this is yellow. You don't think about it. Yeah, it's yellow. Nazis are bad. Yeah, Nazis are bad. Not that I think Nazis are bad, but that's the way or Nazis are bad, but the way how the Nazis would talk about Jews, like, but that's what brainwashing is, So that's why that's our hope, because more and more people starting to wake up. They have not yet been able to destroy our free speech completely, and that's why there's still hope. It's not over. So yeah, let's see where it's gonna end. And of course, I've said a lot of things, and I hope you guys will debate me in the comments and go after me, because that's okay.